This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 313 of Horse Tip Daily, a different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is sponsored by FeedXL. You can find them at feedxl.com. Enjoy today's tip. Well, hi, everybody. Glenn the Geek back with you from Lexington, Kentucky, and you're listening to Horse Tip Daily. Well, we have back with us today a new co-host for the Horse Radio Network, and also we call her the most dangerous woman on horseback. And over the World Equestrian Games, I got to spend some time with her as she stayed just down the road from us, and that's Tammy Sronce. Tammy Sronce is a champion mounted shooter and a heck of a cowgirl. And she has won more titles than anyone I know in mounted shooting. And she'll be helping us out over there on the Western Radio Show with Alan Moorhead as the co-host. And she's done very well over there. We're very happy to have her as part of the team. Well, she also did some tips for us here on Horse Tip Daily. And we're going to be right back to hear what the most dangerous woman on horseback has to say, right after you learn more about equine nutrition and how to feed your horse for the ultimate performance by visiting FeedXL's Learning Center. FeedXL does all the smart stuff that it takes to formulate and balance a horse's diet. It takes all the science and math that a doctor of equine nutrition learns and makes it super easy and fun for you to use. Just plug in a few simple details to see if your horse is having his nutritional requirements met. FeedXL is used by equine nutritionists to formulate equine diets in every industry, including racehorses, jumpers, dressage, trail riders and endurance, riding schools, cutters, reiners, halter horses, western pleasure, rodeo horses, and on and on. For more information or to use FeedXL, go to feedxl.com. That's feedxl.com. And now, the most dangerous woman on horseback, Tammy Sronce. Well, hi, Tammy, and welcome back to Horse Tip Daily.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. It's always good to have you back. I love talking to you. I love that accent. I hope my wife's not around. It's a good thing she doesn't listen to the shows, Tammy. She would hear me flirting with you about your tremendous Australian Southern Texas cowgirl accent. What I think is really funny is when you say y'all. That cracks me up.
You should hear me try and speak Spanish.
That would be funny. So we did our first, we talked about your background and the fact that you're a world champion shooter and that you actually do shooting competitions on your horse. And one of the things that you mentioned when we were doing an overview sort of in the first tip, and everybody can go back and listen to that at horsetipdaily.com, is you talked about the progression of sounds. When you're teaching a horse that's going to be involved in hunting or going to be involved in some of the sports that have large crowds, things like that, you start off slow, right?
Exactly, yeah. What you don't want to do is you don't want to scare the horse. You want to make the horse confident, make him brave. And that requires, a very careful foundation when you're working with any kind of loud noises or desensitization.
All right, so let me ask you, when you take a horse, okay, you've got this horse in for training. It's never been around Gunfire before. How do you start? Where do you start?
I'm always looking at it. When I get a horse in for training, I always keep one eye on their personality, how they act around that noise. If I'm shooting off another horse and they're tied to my walker or they're in a stall, are they reacting then? How sensitive is that horse? Because it's really important that you read each individual horse and train it accordingly, not just throw it in the box in the same method you use for every other horse. But I always start out, on the ground and do a lot of groundwork before I even climb into the saddle on these mounted shooting horses.
Well, do you actually just, okay, so you've watched how they've reacted away from, you might be working with other horses out in the arena and you're watching how they're reacting to the Gunfire. Do you then start them with like a 22 and work, because I know you use 45s, which I do. For people who don't know about guns, a 45 is a big bang.
It's a very big caliber.
It's a big bang. It's a big bullet if you don't use bullets, but it's a big bullet when you have a 45.
Exactly.
Do you start off with lower weapons, firecrackers? How do you do it?
That makes me laugh because I do get an email and I get phone calls from some people, and it says, "Hey, Tammy, it was 4th of July, and I went out and bought some firecrackers. I've been throwing them at my horse, and he's doing much better."
Oh, great.
They seriously come in, but no, they just make me laugh every time they come in. So the number one thing I'll do, I'll take a stick in a plastic bag, and I'll work with that horse, just general desensitization like any other colt person would do. And that gives me a pretty good idea of how that horse is going to react to smoke. If he's real funny about that plastic bag, and I'm working with him and desensitizing him, and that takes a long time to really get him used to that, I know there's going to be a problem with my smoke. So I've got that worked out.
So you take the stick in the plastic bag, and you're actually rubbing it over him?
I am. I'm seeing how he reacts to it at the side of him, in front of him, over him, and just, I don't run in and scare him and see what I've got. I'm working with that and desensitizing him at the same time as paying attention to how he reacts. So once I've got that done, then coming from Australia, I do have a stock whip, and I will work with that stock whip on the ground, and I kind of look to see how he reacts to the little crack on that, and that's very controlled by me. So I do work with a stock whip a little bit.
Oh, great, Tammy!
And then I'll move into my pistol training.
This is just wonderful, Tammy. So now we've got you. You're an ace shooter, and you can use a whip.
I can use a whip, but you know what? I never use a whip on a horse. I'm not that good because I'm always scared.
No, it wasn't the horse I was worried about.
Oh, okay. I'm worried about the horse. Yes, all my whip training, all my stock whip training is on the ground. I am not capable. I don't trust myself on a horse with that. A gun, no problem. Whip, nope.
So you're not doing the I couldn't put a straw in my mouth and you whip it out like the guys in the shows, huh?
Yeah, I could sure give it a try, but I wouldn't want to be you.
All right, so you'll then progress to the sound the whip makes.
Yeah, I will. Once he's okay on the ground, then I will jump on him, and I have to do the same thing on the horse. I'll start with a pistol, and I'll just dry fire it. And to dry fire, we mean there's nothing in the gun. There's nothing, no noise when I click that pistol through. I'm pretty much just clicking through and letting him get used to the sound of that gun and seeing something at both sides of him. Whenever I jump on him, I've got to be really careful. It's the same thing on the ground and with anything else with a horse. Whatever you do to the left side, you got to do to the right side.
Right.
So to get him used to me, lounging all over him and reaching out to this side and reaching out to that side, and that is very important. If you don't do that step, what's going to happen is whenever you stick your hand out to the side, the horse is going to jump sideways because he's like, oh, here it comes, So you have to get him used to having a gun, or any object, all around him, and him not anticipate what's going to happen. So once I've finished my dry fire work, that'll take me, 3-4 days. Then I will move on to a 22, which is a very light load, and it gets him used to the sound, and it has no smoke, so I can work on my sound and not have to worry about desensitizing for smoke.
That's something I never thought about, was the smoke. I always thought about the crack, but I never thought about the smoke.
No, the smoke will come out and it'll have a big white puff. And then, trust me, I've been on some colts. If that wind picks up that smoke and pushes it straight back into that horse, and that needs some desensitization.
Wow, I never thought about that. And the other thing, when you see the pictures of the shooters and your pictures, especially on your website there, you see the I don't know, the fire coming out as well. So not only do you have the smoke, you have that little bit of the burn off of the gunpowder. And,
exactly.
that's coming out the end, and, of course, the horses can see that, too. I'd never thought about that part of it before.
Yeah, and another thing you've got to think about, whenever you shoot those targets, they're actually balloons, they break up into pieces of plastic. Yeah, and that plastic can actually come back and hit your horse in the chest or the shoulder, it's not going to hurt him, but I've had that happen a couple of times with some young horses, and it does make them a little nervous because they're not quite trusting of what that is yet. So, the plastic is another object to desensitize again.
Yeah, wow. So then you'll work your way up. Will you actually go up? Will you go to the competition guns from the 22, or do you have a step even in between there?
I have a step between there. And it depends on the horse. If the horse is doing real good with 22s, I'll shoot some 22s and then shoot some 45s. If my horse is needing a little more bribing that this is okay, I will shoot a half load 45, which is a 45 load, which is only half the strength. And I can actually reload them at my house, and I can put as much powder in as that horse can take. So I have a lot of control in that. So if a horse is a little, goosey, then I'll spend some extra time on my 45s, half loads. But it's really important not to rush the horse through. If the horse is having problems at an earlier stage, with a plastic bag, or if he's having a problem with a 22, don't move on. Stay there and stick with that horse until he's really confident, and then move on. And that's what I was talking about with having patience, and being able to work with that horse every day.
And I am sure there are some horses that just are not cut out for this work.
And not very few. Well, that's the point. The problem is I can train the horses, and the horses will take the Gunfire, and then it comes back to saying, hey, is this person who owns this horse capable of this horse?
Well,
and that's the main question.
There you go. That's a very good point.
Shoot, but, yeah. So, and that's why I really tell people, if you're green or you're inexperienced or, don't get a young horse. I had a young student show up here with a Mustang that had 30 days on it, and they couldn't ride, and they wanted to go shoot. And I said, Mustangs are fine. I've trained, quite a few, and they're nice horses. But you've got to know your ability, and you've got to keep yourself safe, because if it's not safe and you're not having fun, then there's no point to this.
Don't you love it when the parents buy the young horse for the young rider, even a teenager, and they're going to grow up and learn together? No, they're going to get hurt together.
Yes.
That's what's going to happen.
Yes, well, let's learn together.
Yeah, no, there's no learning together. You can learn together when you're playing soccer, not when you're riding a horse.
Yeah, let's learn together does not work.
Yeah, let's learn on something that already knows, and then we'll go to that other step. But one of the two has to know something.
Exactly.
So let's put a disclaimer in here, too. Do you recommend that people start their own horses for shooting? I mean, is this a wise move, or should they? And by the way, we're shooting blanks here, too, people. We're not shooting bullets. So let's qualify that.
No, I don't recommend that. And if people want to do that, this is what I tell them. Come out to my house or email me. Let me guide you. Let me help you. Come back, have a lesson. I'll give you some homework to do. Then go home and do it, and then come back. But let me help you and put you on the right track, because the problem is, and you get that with some mounted shooters. A couple of them trained their first horse, and they don't have any problems, and they're like, hey, this is easy. Let me get another horse. I want another shooting horse. And it doesn't quite work out as easy. The reason why that happens is because there's only about 5 or 10% of horses you can jump on and then just grab your 45 and go to a competition. There are horses that are that gentle and that quiet, they'll let you. The problem is, if you do that with every single horse, then it becomes a retraining deal, because you've scared that horse.
Right.
He's not brave anymore, and then you have to fix him. So rather than fix what's broken, just start, everything with a correct foundation. And then when the wheels fall off the wagon, you have a foundation to come back to, and you can say to that horse, hey, remember when we done this? It was okay,
And it's 1,000 times harder to retrain a horse, a person, anybody, than to do it right in the first place. It's just, and some of them just aren't, they're never going to get it at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah. You've given them a disadvantage to start. Now, next time when we get together, I really want to talk about another aspect of what you guys do, and that's actually you got to run fast and make tight turns and do all of those things that really require a ton of practice and muscle memory. So next time we get together, we'll talk about muscle memory. Where can people find out more about you?
I've got a website, TexasShootingHorses.com. I've got an email on there if someone has any questions, and actually my phone number's on there. Any questions about your horse, any questions about training, just feel free to email me, and then I can help you all I can and email back. That's no problem at all.
Well, that's great. You're a sweetheart for doing that, and we appreciate you being on. You can find her at TexasShootingHorses.com. The links are all on our website at HorseTipDaily.com. We'll talk to you again soon, Tammy. Well, thanks to Tammy again for joining us. She certainly has a unique perspective on the training of horses for a very unique sport in the horse world. We thank her for being on, and we also thank her for being part of the Western Radio Show over at westernradioshow.com. And 15 days until the start of Horses in the Morning on November the 1st at 9 a.m. Eastern. Join us for the first ever live horse radio show in the morning. It's going to be light, lively, fun, and entertaining. You want to join us on November the 1st? Jamie and I are getting excited. We're doing some test runs now, and working out the technology, and we hope it all comes together for November 1st. We only have 2 weeks. 2 weeks from Monday, we'll be live in the morning. Join us at 9 to 10:30, and it'll be immediately recorded and put out as a podcast after. So if you miss it, if you can't join us from 9 to 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, you can listen later in the day. That's no problem at all. Should be a lot of fun, and we're putting all the pieces together now. Thanks again, and we'll look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, stay safe, everyone.
The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.